Hi, everybody. This is Vicki, Ronchette, and Rebecca Lanier with Show Dog Prep School. Today, we're going to be sharing my dog Rook's from Shy to Showy journey. We're going to start in about 3 minutes because I want to. Oh, getting a little bit of weird feedback. I want to make sure everybody has a chance to sign on and check us out. Again, as a reminder, you don't have to click on any extra links or pay anybody any money or anything to see this. It's totally free. It's going to happen right here. I do want to also tell you that I would love for you to share this. Hi, Michelle. Oh, my best friend's on. I would love for you to share this. I'm going to go on my phone right now and do that because this is really great information for anybody who works with show dogs, anybody who has dogs, anybody who has struggled with a fearful dog. But even if you haven't, I don't say this to be cheeky or anything like that, but you probably will someday. You probably will deal with a dog at some point. Hello, Anna, who does have issues. So, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the dog's terrified of everything. It absolutely could be. All right, I just shared it on my page. Hi, Maggie. It absolutely could be that the dog just is not okay with a piece of the grooming, or the dog is not okay with having the collar put on. Hey, Megan. So, all of those dogs, any dog that has any issue that comes from a place of fear or concern or being timid or worried, this will work with all of them. So I'm going to give it 1 more minute and then we're going to jump into the presentation. Hey, Carrie, again, you guys, please feel free to share. This will be saved on our Facebook page and it will also go onto our YouTube channel. And, depending on how much sense I feel it makes without the slideshow, maybe it'll even go onto the podcast. Hey, Meredith. Meredith's got puppies over there out of my boy Jaeger. Good to see everybody. Thank you, everyone, for being here. So when you're watching us, if you're on your phone or your computer, you can just go ahead and share that. And we would love that because we really want to get this information out there. It's super, super important. Hello from Thailand. Oh, my gosh. Thank you for being here. That's amazing. All right, we're at 5:03, so we're going to get started. You guys, Rebecca is going to be on here live with me. Hey, Sandy. Shy and not showy percentages and both succeed. Not only say nice. Thank you so much. We love that. I love hearing that. Hey, Wendy. Hey, Silk. Hey, Linda. Hey, everybody. So Rebecca's going to be on here with me, and we're not going to have time to do a lot of questions. So we're not going to be able to answer questions about your dog. We're not going to be able to give you advice about what to do with your dogs. But if you have any questions relevant to what you're seeing in the presentation, you can ask that. And I probably won't see it because I'll be doing a screen share. Hey, Nancy, but Rebecca will let me know. I also want to tell you that, hang in there because I'm going to give you some discounts. We just are rolling out our new From Shy to Showy full package that comes with remote coaching sessions, our online course, our mentor program, a whole bunch of stuff. So we're going to give you a discount code for that. And let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to share my screen here. And Rebecca, let me know that you guys are seeing this. Is that good? How it should be?
Yep, looks great.
All right, here we go. So this is my dog, Rook. This is my beautiful Challenger Sugar Plum. And we are in Joshua Tree a couple weeks ago, right before we did his first show back in Palm Springs. All right, so a little bit of background about Rook. This is the day I picked him up. I got him from a trusted breeder and friend at 9 weeks old. He was picked up. Me and my best friend, Michelle, who's on here. Hi, Michelle. We drove down there. We spent the night in a hotel. We picked him up in the morning and we drove home. So he was transported home, basically, in the car with us. I've met both his parents. They're both lovely. The first indication that he was showing some signs of concern was at about 4 months old. And I work at a grooming shop and we raise puppies at the grooming shop. And when Colleen, who's a longtime friend of mine and very dog savvy, came in, that was the first person that he had shown concern with. I didn't know why, because he hadn't had that reaction to any other person. But when he saw Colleen, he was concerned and barked at her and reactive, and he was pretty little. Then at 7 months old, I had a litter of loud chin puppies, and we had a puppy play date, and a slightly older French Bulldog Singleton puppy came over to meet the group and to also, join in the socialization with the kids and stuff to came to visit my puppies. And I put Rook in with the French Bulldog puppy, and he was not comfortable with her, and he was reactive and upset. So, when he was about 8 months old, I entered him in a dog show. Now, I made the entry before I really could see that there was a real problem. So I made that, and instead of not showing him, I decided to go ahead and show him just to get a baseline. So those of you who work with me know that one of the things I like to do is we consider when we feel that the dog may be ready to go into the ring, and there's a bunch of criteria that we teach in from Shy to Showy that means we're ready to make that decision. But I was prepared to ask to be excused or not show him if I got there and he seemed upset. He was overwhelmed, I would say, but he never stopped taking food, which does not mean he wasn't nervous. It just means he likes food a lot, and he will push through fear to get to food. And that's a very important point, because a lot of people think, oh, if he can eat, he's okay. No, he can eat when he's upset. He's just one of those dogs. So at that show, he was entered in sweepstakes, puppy sweepstakes, and two shows, a morning show and an afternoon show. I knew who the judges were, and I was prepared to ask to be excused. And when I showed him in sweepstakes, he backed up for the exam, and then he did sort of turn to me, and I asked to be excused. I decided to put him in the class and see what he did in the morning show, and he did much better. He stood for the exam, but leaned away, and he won his class. But she made it a point to really, the judge was very soft with him, but he was clearly uncomfortable. So at that time, I made the decision to pull him and work on his concerns with people. So I want to talk a little bit about labeling, because that happens a lot. And I do use some labels with dogs, and labels are just human constructs of what we're calling the behavior, right? So a lot of times when I did a lot of in-home behavior consulting, people would say, oh, she's very jealous, or oh, she's just mad at me. Oh, she's just, being spiteful, or all these things. But those are human constructs, and those are not something we can quantify and measure. The constructs I usually use are fearful, because there is body language that indicates that the dog is fearful. But beyond that, I don't know what a dog is thinking. So we want to be very careful, especially when we're creating a training plan, that we're not going to say the dog feels this or the dog thinks that. We're going to look at behavior, because behavior we can see, we can observe it, we can measure it, we can quantify it, and we can use that to move forward in our program. So the behavior that I saw from Rook was that he would lean away and try to leave from strangers. He would bark at people on walks. He would bark at people from the car. He would bark at people who come into the house, and his behavior looked defensive and fearful. So he was moving away, right? Trying to lean away from them, trying to escape from them. He was hypervigilant, but again, he would always take food. And this is something that I want to consider, but I'm not just going to try and shovel food into him if he's not okay, because this dog will eat even when he's afraid. This is how he reacts to photographers. So my friend Jeremiah was taking pictures, and as you can see, one of the things we still are working on is him not liking cameras. Okay, unfortunately, I did not get video of that very first show, but shortly after that, my friend came over, and she is an AKC judge. Don't worry, I don't show to her. She's one of my closest friends, but I asked her to examine him so we could get video. Now, you are going to see a little bit of stress, and we stopped when he got upset, but I don't put them in positions like this, but I did want to see where he was at, and I did want to get some video. So this was his reaction then. And this was actually not as bad as he was in that actual first show in the sweepstakes, not in the show. So I think I'm going to turn the sound down so we can just kind of talk through it. So I set him up, and you could see he's comfortable with the table, and he knows how to be stacked, and he understands the cue to stay and to hold position. So see, there's some conflict there because he's willing to go up and sniff her, but when she gets invasive and steps into his space, he says no. And now I've seen people many times hold a dog like this in position. He's small enough. He's not even 10 pounds. You could force him. I could hold his mouth shut and force him. And people do that. They do that with small dogs because they can get away with it. It is not a kindness. He is relaxing a little bit here. So it's starting to tell me that part of it is that initial walk up, right? When she first approaches and puts hands on him. Let's see. I think maybe I do it again. So again, she's going to walk up. And he really is saying, "I don't want to. I don't want, stop it, stop it." So, I think at this point, or pretty close to it, I just said, "Let's stop." Okay, so a few things to consider. This was before he showed any reactivity. When he was a little tiny puppy, I was taking him a lot of places. This was in Half Moon Bay, and we just went out to a pumpkin patch, and he was not showing concerns with people yet at that point. But a few things to consider. The moment that I noticed an issue with Rook, I put a plan in place. So it's like the moment he got weird with Colleen, I went, this is going to be a concern with more than just this one person. And then it quickly turned into more people. And even if I suspect that age, normal development, or hormones are playing a part, I'm still immediately going to begin to work on the behavior with behavior mod or behavior modification or training plan. Because a lot of people will say, oh, she's just in a fear period. But it's not universal that all dogs have a fear period later on in adolescence. I see it a lot. It's very common for dogs to, for their issues that they're having to sort of come out around, uh, well, I'm hesitant to say an age, but in my experience, I would say 8 to 13 months, more commonly, probably about 10 or 12 months. So I'll see where all of a sudden it's just like this dog that seemed really happy and outgoing and social, all of a sudden seems weird. And so even if you think, oh, she's just going through a period, I'm going to encourage you to still train and work on it and support the dog as if there's a behavior issue, because you don't know if it's going to go away and you actually can do harm by ignoring it. So you want to really make sure that if you see something, even if you don't think that it's an issue, that you work on it. And this work is pretty straightforward. I don't find it challenging, but I do it all the time. And it's not difficult to mess up. You can mess this up by pushing the dog, not knowing when to go to the next step, by forcing the dog, or by screwing up feeding protocols. So you can actually teach the dog that, food is a trigger for a scary thing if your food delivery is not at the right time. So that's one reason why I just don't want people to just give food to other people and think that's going to solve it. It usually doesn't. For me, I did not panic at all, because I've worked through this issue with many, many, many client dogs all over the world. Actually, I've coached people, and I really felt confident that I could change his feelings about strangers. But I do want to say that how you decide to do this makes all the difference in the world. You can do things at this stage of the game that will ruin the dog for the show ring. And you can do things that will make it okay for the dog. And some people force the dog, and then they still sort of end up sort of being okay. But even if that worked, which in my experience, it doesn't really work, it just makes the person happy because they're forcing the dog to be still, even though the dog is terrified. That's not working for me. But even if they do think it works, it's not okay with me to do it for my dog if it creates stress or fear or anxiety. So never once did I consider forcing him more than what you saw with my friend going over him. And then I watched that video now and I even feel a little guilty, like, oh, we really kind of pushed him. So where to start? Well, with Rook, he was barking even at people on the street out of my car. So I started some distance work. This is always how I start with reactivity. Reactivity is barking, lunging, carrying on the leash. Sometimes reactivity is fear, sometimes it's aggression. A lot of the times it's frustration. The dog wants to get to the thing but can't, so they start barking. But that can turn from a good, overstimulated, over aroused response to not good. Like it can tip over into aggression or super rough, rude behavior. But with Rook, if he saw a person anywhere, he would basically bark. So what I started doing was I would take him and I did this uh basically this would be mostly operant conditioning. What I'm trying to do is create an association between the scary thing and my dog. I want him to feel good about it. So I'm going to make him like it when a scary person appears by all of a sudden feeding him super high value food. And it's like just a Pez dispenser. Like he sees a person, hopefully before he barks, but interestingly, it doesn't matter if he barks. We're not looking for operant or trained behavior based on consequences. We're looking at changing emotional responses. Okay, so even if he barked, this is not going to ruin this protocol. So we're in the car, we're at the park. A person walks up, he goes to turn. I just immediately start feeding him. So as there's a person in his view, he's eating. And when the person disappears, the food disappears. And then the next person comes, same thing, feed, feed, feed. And we're just sitting in my car. He's sitting in his car seat right here, like you see, just looking out the window. And we're just in the car. And every time he sees a person, I believe I did use a clicker at this. So he would just notice the person and I would click and feed. But what happens really quickly if your timing is good and you do this a lot is what you start to get. And I did have video of this, but I couldn't find it. What you'll start to get is the dog looking at the thing and then looking at you because he told him that when that thing appears, you're going to feed him. And when you've got that, the dog is starting to be able to make real choices and decisions and getting some control over how he's feeling, right? So all the work what we do is sub threshold, meaning the dog is far enough away that he can eat food, he can hear me if I say his name, he can hear me and respond to known cues. So if I ask him to do a behavior that he knows, he can do that. So I'm really wanting to make sure that all those things are happening. If he's going off, we're too close. We're just going to get out of there and get some distance from the trigger. So during this time, I'm also working on life skills training with him. So in addition to the reactivity stuff, we're working on behaviors like sit down, stay here, it's your choice, which is a well-known Susan Garrett exercise that I'm going to show you here. Leave it, wait, and all of our dog show stuff. And he was doing conditioning work. So here's a little video of him just practicing it's your choice. So I don't say anything. If he mugs the food goes away. But if he sits there, food goes in his mouth. See, I don't pay all that crazy bumping into the hand, and he has to wait for the food to be delivered to his mouth, not for him to just pop over. So the reason why I like exercises like this is because those are self-control exercises or impulse control exercises where he's actually having to learn to think about what he's doing and make a choice in order for something he wants to happen. So things like leave it, wait, it's your choice. Those are really, really good exercises to get on board, just as life skills and for the dog to start, having some self control and learning about that he needs to have self control. I also always did a lot of mental stimulation with him. So, mental stimulation and enrichment is really good because it helps to build confidence. It gives the dog some skills. It's also a great energy burner. So if you're gonna like take your dog out for a training walk, you know, do a puzzle toy for her, do some mental stimulation or enrichment to burn some of that stink off. So you've taken a little edge off because mental stimulation burns a lot of energy and it encourages problem solving, which is good for dogs who are insecure or have issues. For mental stimulation with Rook, he did trick training and he obtained his trick dog novice title. And all of his meals were fed out of puzzle toys. So I just would get new toys like these all the time and switch them out. And then he had snuffle mats and Kongs and wobbles and puzzles, and all of his meals came out of those. All right. So when you're ready to move to the next step is when your dog feels safe with the trigger present, but at a distance. So when like you saw him in the car, it would have been too much for me to roll the window down and like start talking to a person if he's barking at them from a distance, right? It would be too much for me to even get him out and walk him around at that point yet because he would be reacting at everything. But as soon as we were able to, we did that, and that was like one of the next steps for him. So we're doing everything at a distance again where he can see the things, but he can do all of these other things that tell me that he's in a state of mind where he's pretty relaxed and okay. So when he would look at the person and then back at me, I knew that he was operant, meaning that it went beyond just association training to now I had a behavior on board, right? Now I taught him when you see a person, instead of barking at them, I'm going to teach you something new to do. You disengage with them and you look at me. So that becomes a trained behavior. In the beginning, all I did was whenever a person came, click and feed, click and feed, click and feed, click and feed. Pretty soon, he sees a person, he looks at me, where's my chicken? And it's like, awesome. Now he's thinking, he's making a decision. I don't want my fearful dogs to be running up to strangers, taking food from them, climbing all over people they don't know when they're still at this stage of the game. Because, and we talk about this a lot in From Shy to Showy, so I won't go into it too much here, but I will tell you that people can create a lot of problems with food because they'll think that the way to do it is just to have strangers give the dog food. But that creates conflict. So you'll have dogs that will get much closer to things that they're afraid of just to get the food. And that's not what we want. We want them to get close to the person because they've learned to feel comfortable with the person. So when he would look at the person and back at me, I knew he was operant. So again, I can test him by saying if he can, in the presence of the trigger, and it could be that we're starting out at 50 feet away. And so that's where he's okay. But if they were 10 feet away, he wouldn't be okay. Right. So we're starting at a distance for, in our case, in the car. So when he can respond to his name, respond to known cues, looks relaxed and calm, eat food, and look away from the trigger, I'm feeling like I'm on the right track and that I'm sub threshold. So let's take a break real quick. I just want to make sure that we're doing okay with people being able to find it. So I just want to jump on here real quick and make sure that there's no notes on here for me because I had a lot of people wanting to watch this. So I really want to make sure everybody can. Okay. All right. Excellent. Keep sharing, you guys. I would love for people to see this. All right. So at home. So we're doing that stuff at work in the car, but we've also got, him very upset when people come over. So this was our protocol when people would come over. We start out by having the dogs generally put away, and I would give him a calming supplement when guests come over. I also give him calming supplements when we're going to do something that I think could potentially cause him to get reactive. And I'll tell you what the supplement is later. So I give him supplements when guests come. I give him supplements when the cleaning ladies come. Basically, when guests come in, they ignore Rook. They just ignore him. No one talks to him or looks at him, and they only interact when he initiates it. So in this situation, we had my sister-in-law and her husband and her two adult daughters over for like a backyard pizza thing. And we have an area that's sort of fenced off where we can hang out and have company. And it's on the way up to our chickens and stuff, but the dogs don't come on that side. So I had everybody on that side. I let Rook out, and then they were able to like talk to him and feed cookies through the gate and stuff, because he ran up and initiated contact. So basically, we're just having people ignore him at first, and then when he comes up there and he's asking for attention, then they can give treats. But then I will call him away. So initially, he goes up to a person. I'm just going to let him sniff for a minute, or not a minute or two, a second or two. And then I'm going to call him and I'm going to give him a treat. And then I'm going to let him choose to go back or not. Because one thing, and I'm going to shout out to Suzanne Clothier. I don't know if she's watching it, but she was the person who told me and really taught me about giving dogs, teaching them the skill of getting out of there, because sometimes a dog just gets up to a scary thing and they're just barking and reacting because they don't have the skill of literally turning and walking away from something that's worrisome. So, by even if you're on a leash and you're at a dog show, don't have people come up and say, "Hi, buddy." Just talk to the person. And if the dog goes up and sniffs them, let that happen for a second or two and then call the dog away, give him a treat, and then you could just stand there and see if the dog chooses to go up again. But that doubles your reinforcement because you're doing that release of pressure to move the dog away. And then they get a treat from you. And also, that's what I want the dog to learn. Like, if you're worried about something, come and find me. You don't need to like try and sort it out yourself. You come and find me. If and only if the dog is comfortable, possibly allow the dog to give treats and observe the behavior and give him breaks if needed. So this is after we were outside doing that pizza party. They came inside, they were getting ready to leave, and Cameron sat down on the couch, and this was what we got. So he was um he was definitely wanting to interact with her. He goes over there, he rolls on his back, and he chose to do that. There was no pressure. She didn't ask him to come over with cookies. He just chose to do that. So I'm looking at all that very much, like how comfortable the dog feels making those decisions. So the next step for him was that, and this would be a situation where I would give him the supplement. We'll go to a dog show, but he's not entered. So in this case, I was showing my other dog when before I cut off Jaeger's hair, and I was still specialing him. I took Rook on some shows, and this is one of them. And we just went to a show where he could just hang out, and I could see what he looked like in this environment after some months of work. Sometimes we worked with other people, and a lot of the time we just watched. And a lot of the time he was in the trolley while Jaeger was out. So he was learning all these different skills that will help him to be a show dog, but also helps me to measure where he's at. So it's really critical that anyone working with you and your dog follow your directions and understand not to push the dog. In this case, Melissa, who is a professional trainer, happened to be at the show and offered to do some work. So this is what we did. I wanted to have him get treats on the table from a stranger, and we're measuring his body language. And I apologize that the quality of the video is not very good. But so I'm stacking him, and my plan here is not for her to put her hands on him, but just to come up and deliver food. There's also a fast cat going on behind him. So there's a lot of activity there. And I'm not doing anything. She's just walking up, feeding, and walking away, adding a little touch there. Her and I are discussing uh, what she'll do and how much, if any, pressure she's going to start to build on. But we want to make sure that, he's looking relaxed and comfortable. I've got him in my hand so I can feel what's happening with his body. If he tries to lean back, sometimes the lean back might be for food, like just because she's literally stepping into his space. But I'm also looking at his tail and I'm feeling his tail for softness. We're looking at his, body language, his eyes, all of that stuff, just for him to be relaxed. This is at that same show, so this is just us walking around. I'm So in that one, I'm letting him walk around, but I'm also calling his name to see if he responds to me and turns and comes back, which he did. I want to make sure he's not getting so overwhelmed that he starts barking or getting upset. Another thing that I did with him was to do some handling classes with a trusted instructor. I'm very lucky to have some friends who teach classes, so I do have access to that. The class on the top is actually was my class that oh no, no, that was Jacqueline's class too. My friend Colette does a class that was my class. And so I would do some of those with her because he actually knows Colette and likes her. So I could do the class with Colette and then also at the grooming shop have Colette go over him because he was comfortable with her going over him and other people he knows going over him. So sometimes I'll put that in my training plan like, okay, well, go ahead and have your partner or whoever go over the dog. And they're like, well, she's not going to be upset about that. I mean, he likes that person, but he's still learning the pattern. He's still learning the skill of how to be still. He's still learning about what this whole thing is going to look like. He's still learning to have predictability about what's about to happen. So it's really valuable. So this is Jacqueline Shoto's class. I hope I said her last name right. She has Sidell's Min Pins and she's in my area. And she's just great because she has everything that I'm looking for in that. And along with Colette, who also, I did is that they use positive reinforcement methods. They are not going to push me to do things that I don't feel comfortable with. There's no, pressure. I'm permitted to do what I want to do with my dog and not be made to feel bad for not pushing my dog. So that's very common. And a lot of the times I get the dogs come to me after they've gone to a class and then the advice sadly is usually just make him do it. Don't let him get away with that. Pretend to dump him off the back of the table or give him a correction or for just hold him as tight as you can and let me force, touch him. He'll learn it's not bad. And it's like, no, he's actually being validated that you're scary because if the dog is saying, I'm not okay, and everybody ignores that, then his needs aren't being met. No one's listening to him. And if you punish a dog for growling or for moving away or backing up like Rook was doing, you are taking the warning system out of that dog. Don't do that. Because if he's not allowed to use his voice or his body language to communicate to you that he's uncomfortable, you are giving him no option but to use his teeth. And that's not fair to force a rap sheet and a bite record on a dog that didn't have a choice. It's not his fault, it's our fault. So here's the criteria for a class to work for my dog. The instructor uses positive reinforcement methods. So not all instructors are all positive, but I'm not going to go to a class where dogs are really scared and trying to get out of there and hating it. If there's a little bit, but thankfully I didn't have to deal with that with these classes. And that I'll be permitted to and not made to feel bad for not pushing my dog, that I'm ready to advocate for my dog if need be. And that the instructor must be willing to work with my dog with the methods I'm comfortable with. Now, Jacqueline again was great. One of the times she's like, hey, there was a man in the class. He's great. Would you want to have him go over him? And I was like, that's awesome. I don't think this time because I really like how he's doing, but maybe next time. So that was really nice. A gentle, kind offer that I wasn't quite ready for, but I love that, she's thinking ahead that way. But that also I feel comfortable saying, I don't think he's quite ready for that. So some other helpful things. I did use a calming supplement. This is currently my favorite one for him. I was looking for one that had a fairly high um, amount of L-theanine in it because that was really kind of what I mainly wanted. And this seems to work really well for him. And I've recommended this to other people and they've liked it too. So this is not the regular calming bites. This is the ancient elements and it's in this maroon bottle or jar. It's over the counter. It's totally legal because it's a supplement. It's not a medication. By the way, I do want to say that if my dog needed medication, I would not have a problem not showing him and medicating him. So, medication is something that some dogs need and some humans need, but usually we don't look for meds unless our really good behavior mod training hasn't worked. If you hit a wall with behavior modification, or if it's like I worked with a gorgeous puppy one time, and after 4 months, I started working with her at 4 months. After 4 months, I still could not put my hands on her, and she was still, you know, ready to bite. And did end up being medicated, and she did not ever end up being a show dog because she wasn't going to be safe. It's like it doesn't matter how beautiful a dog is, and she was beautiful. But if that dog cannot handle strangers touching it and needs to be medicated to cope in life and could hurt a person like a judge or a handler or another dog, it's not ethical. So thankfully, they realized that with her. And those cases are few and far between, but they exist. And a lot of times the bites happen because people punish, 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 punish. You're not allowed to growl. You're not allowed to say you don't like this. You're not, you just have to stand there and do everything I say. And if they don't, they're going to get in trouble. And that can create a ticking time bomb where the dog's just like bottling it up, bottling it up. But at some point, that's going to blow. So another helpful thing is just comfortable equipment that the dog feels safe and comfortable in. So sometimes um, that might not mean your regular equipment. If the dog feels pressured or like they can't get away on something like a choke chain, you may have to opt for different type of equipment that the dog's more comfortable with. Another thing that can be really helpful is dog and human friends. So we have one dog, Jenny, who's you know, maybe my best from Shy to Showy story, even though she's a Basset Hound American Eskimo mix. She came to me from friends who have Bassets, and she came into rescue. She had laid a vet open. I mean, like level 4 bite, blood, bad. And she was 3.5 months old. And they wanted me to evaluate her. And I said, I'll evaluate her, but I know she can't live in a home with kids. And the vet wanted to euthanize her. They brought her here. Um, and I've had her, she'll be 12 in April, and she's never bitten anybody since. And nobody believes me when I say this dog at 3 months old would snarl and lunge at people across the street. She was really scared. But the way that we got her to the vet was I would hold her. My best friend, Michelle, would bring her dog, Dennis, who Jenny was friends with. And then my vet would do what he had to do. So having Michelle there and Dennis there was just a comfort for her. And that's very common with fearful dogs, where you can have another dog who's more confident and relaxed. And not only can it help the dog just sort of be around someone who's relaxed, but it serves as a buffer for that dog in between the people that the dog's potentially scared of and your dog, right? There's this in between dog who can do the yucky stuff of visiting with the strangers so that other dog can remain and have some distance. Also, build positive associations with anything else associated with the dog shows. For instance, grooming, hotel stays, traveling, being in the crate, all of that kind of stuff. So we don't want to, if you have a dog who doesn't like dog shows, and he also doesn't like the grooming table, and he also doesn't like other dogs, and he also has a bad stomach, now you've got four triggers instead of one, and every one is going to build upon the other. It's called trigger stacking, so that the dog's going to blow much easier every time. All right, so this is Rook getting his nails done. I have taught him to accept grooming Dremels. So he just lays there while I do this. So I need this not to be a scary event for him. I don't want anything associated with the dog show, grooming, any of that to be um to be scary. So if even still the people thing is scary, I'm going to make sure I create this cushion of positivity around dog shows. So, he's pretty much happy with everything. And I wanted to make sure I showed the front legs because I thought for sure people are going to say, oh, she just did the back legs. My dog's fine with the back legs, but he's really good for all of it. And if he asks me to stop, I will. But we've been doing these things since he was a baby dog. And if you start when they're really little, it's much easier. All right. So this past weekend, I think I mentioned I showed Rook at Palm Springs. I entered him one day under a judge who I like and thought would be really soft with him. And she was wearing a big hat. And so there was a little bit of a lean away. But other than that, he stood really good and did great. But a couple weeks after that, which was this past weekend, I did an international show for the first time. And that gave me 5 opportunities to show him. I showed him 4. He did get his international championship, which is really cool. But really, what made me so happy was his behavior. So I'm going to kind of talk you through. This was the first. Yeah, this was the no, this was the second showing that day. I don't have video of the first, but it looked the same. So I want you to pay close attention to his weight distribution. So I'm looking, is he leaning away? Is he trying to get away? Is he doing anything weird? No, I was real happy with that. I also have to tell you that I almost cried because this judge told me he had a temperament to die for. And it's like, you have no idea how much we've been working on this. Um, and I'm actually really proud that I can share this video. Now, I will tell you, this tells me what I do want to work on is him being more comfortable with walking up to the stranger because you could see he kind of, stopped and was like not walking right up to her. So that's something we'll want to work on. Here's the I believe this was the second to the last time. No, this was the last time in the ring. And I pulled him from the last show because I'm like, you know what, dude, this was so awesome because the judge didn't do anything wrong, but it was an extremely thorough exam. And I will talk you through that. Um, so again, this is at that international show. So I'm really happy with how you know, he's moving confidently and comfortable and relaxed. Now, I have to say, I wasn't really prepared for this thorough of an exam. I don't usually put food in the dog's mouth, but I am with him because I want him immediately facing forward. So, thank you, Teresa, for getting video of this, but you're going to see how fairly intense it is. She's going to walk around so you can see better from the side, but watch his weight distribution. It's good. He's not leaning away. His tail is hanging loose. See, it's not tucked, it's hanging there. He stepped forward when she did something with his mouth. And at one point, I'll tell you when. I think maybe I fixed his leg here or something. Look at, she ran her fingers all the way down his front legs. Now she's holding him at the shoulders. Right here, I gave him a piece of food and I told her, I'm sorry, I had to reinforce that. Like I just wasn't going to feed him for this performance because he is, I mean, she's really scrutinizing him. And it was a lot. It was a lot. So again, I'm super, super happy with what he did here. There was a little shake off. Dogs, when they're stressed, when they're about to, in my experience, sort of relax, will do a shake off. That was what happened when I put him on the ground after the table. The other 2 shake offs are just getting used to that. I got him a little leather collar and he was just getting used to that. So we're not there yet, though. We're getting there, but I'm so happy with where he's at. But we're going to continue to work on building his confidence. We're going to get him more comfortable with the exam, although I'm really happy with how he did. This adorable guy works at the grooming shop where I work like 1 day a week or 2 days a week. We just picked out this new puppy for him the other day. Anyways, that's Ollie. He could not be sweeter, and Rook can't stand him. So that's a goal for me, is for Rook to learn to feel comfortable with Ollie because Ollie loves him and he loves dogs. And I want him to be comfortable with more people. I want him to be comfortable with being photographed. He's not. You saw that picture where Jeremiah was taking pictures and he's like yelling at him. I want him to be okay with that because I'd like him to win at a dog show and get pictures taken. And also, anything in the world that scares him that I can help him feel comfortable with, I'm going to. And then if you noticed in those videos, he stopped short of the judge. I would like him to become more comfortable with walking up a little closer to the judges. So recommendations for you are, well, basically my From Shy to Showy package or From Shy to Showy. So From Shy to Showy is available as a book. It's an online course. We can do it in remote sessions. A lot of people in the mentor program are dealing with shy dogs, but we have a brand new program called the From Shy to Showy full package. And it actually includes the book, the online course, the webinar, 6 30-minute remote coaching sessions, and 1 year of the mentor program. That program is $999, but I have a discount code for anybody who's interested in signing up before Monday. If you use the code Rook for 10, so ROOKFOR, and then the number 10, you'll get 10% off. So that's like almost $100 off. But I didn't invent desensitization and counter conditioning. I just modified it to make it work for our show dogs. I really appreciate everybody watching. I'm going to ask you guys to please like and follow us on Facebook. I'd love for you to subscribe to our website email list, which will get you our monthly blog. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. And we also have a free podcast called The Confirmation Conversation. All right. Stop sharing. Stop sharing. There we go. Thank you everybody for being here. Any uh-oh, I see it's back. Maybe something bad happened along the way. Well, I was just talking and presenting. I love you too, Nancy. Oh, thanks, Danny. I really appreciate you getting that video of him. I hope that this was helpful for anybody. I will definitely go back and look up the comments. You're so welcome. Looks like we had a lot of people watching, and this will be saved in there as a recording on our Facebook page. So you can absolutely rewatch it or share it if you have somebody who you think could benefit from it. But I'm so glad that you guys are here. I really appreciate everybody being here. So thank you so much. And don't forget, use the Rook for 10 if you're looking for that full From Shy to Showy full package, or you can also buy it in pieces. So you could just do, the webinar or the full course or remote coaching or anything like that. So thank you so much, everybody. And thanks, Rebecca, for helping me.
Hey, it was all you. No one had any questions because I think you provided such a great presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Have a great weekend, everybody.